How in the hell do you not love college football? Welcome into the SEC Unfiltered Postgame Show. He's your Shumate. I'm Thompson. Breaking down everything that we saw finally as it's come to an end at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn, they were bound to do it at some point. Yet one signature win comes down 4 overtimes later. A missed opportunity by Amari Daniels to score a 43-41 victory. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification, and of course, smash the subscribe button. That way you can stay with everything that we're doing on the channel. Day Talk Ball, Sunday Fun Day, the Monday Morning Power Hour, College Football Playoff Selection Reaction, and a ton of other content. The place to be is right here. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you podcast systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This post-game show is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the new #1 fantasy app for you. You're not betting on plays, you're betting on players. Do you think the over is going to hit next week for Marcel Reed in rushing? Do you think the under is going to hit for Peyton Thorne in turnovers? What you do is go on over to Prize Picks, use the promo code SECU, and sign up to get an instant $50 play with your first $5 lineup. $50 just right for you to go work with if you just sign up with SECU as the promo code. Wait, this game was drunk. This game was back and forth. Auburn at one point, you could have turned off the television and said, Auburn's got this locked in the bag because it was 21-0 after the first 20 minutes of action. And then A&M comes hauling back in. Back and forth blows. You get a late field goal. You get great execution from Peyton Thorne to set up that field goal. And now here we are 4 overtimes later talking about Auburn being a game away from really ruining a couple of seasons and getting the bowl eligibility.
Yeah, this game had everything. I mean, a big overcome some adversity there by A&M on the road. You're back against the wall. Overcome a 21-0 deficit. Auburn hot out of the gates, score their first 2 possessions, the best the offense has looked. Auburn overcomes blowing a 21-point lead. We get into overtime, people making plays. We had some bad kicks. We had some good kicks. We had some big drops just at the very end, like we just saw from Amari Daniels. This game literally had it all. I mean, it literally had 41 total at 41 points. Just a very fun game, I'll say. 43, what do we have in total? 84 points scored in this game. So
84 points.
Fun game to watch on Saturday night there. You're right. Just a wild day. 3 playoff contenders. I'm going to say right now, not officially eliminated, but you feel are probably out in Ole Miss, Alabama, and now Texas A&M. A wild day across. Cole, you thought it was going to be the Big Ten. It ended up being the league we cover. That was the
one that cannibalized itself.
Apocalyptic Saturday.
84 total points. Dave, 49 total first downs. Over 950 yards of offense. 9 total touchdowns. Back and forth blows. Everything about this was fantastic. This is exactly why you fall in love with college football to begin with. So let's start off with the game coming hot out the gate. Cam Coleman. Finally, we get a performance that we have been waiting for all year. This is a kid that we compare alongside with Ryan Williams, alongside with Brian Wingo, alongside with Jeremiah Smith. And at one point, you got to remember, he was committed to Texas A&M. He was going to go play underneath Jimbo Fisher. And then at the very last second, when Fisher was fired, he said, I'm going to go home and stay home and play for Auburn. And we've been waiting for the moment where he was going to break out. He did. 2 big touchdowns, 63-yard score, and then you watch him find his way to the end zone for an 8-yard score. It's 21-0. The vibes are feeling really, really positive for Auburn. Again, Dave, this is where I want to talk about Auburn as a whole. We know who they are as a team. They've been masquerading as a bad program. They have their faults. There are certainly some things that they got to work on, but they were never as bad as what the 4-6 record said. It was just the self-inflicting wounds, the self-sabotaging. They're a game away with Kip Lewis not running it back for a pick 6 and a conversion on 3rd down from going into the Iron Bowl, having an opportunity to be 7-5 at the end of the year. That's what they have. But the issues with the turnovers in Cal, the issues with the turnovers against Arkansas, the issues with the turnover against Oklahoma cost them multiple games and multiple wins. And now this is a team that when it didn't shoot itself in the foot, they're up 21-0 against one of the better defensive fronts in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think DJ Durkin did a phenomenal job. He laid the blueprint out really on how to stop Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Blake White followed it. Blake Baker followed it. the Auburn defense has been fine all year. Has it been some lockdown defense? No. I mean, talking about a defense that just got 41 points put on them. Granted, it was in overtime, so extra time to be able to get points put on you. But I think for the most part, Auburn's defense has been at the level to win 8 games, which was the expectation heading into this year. It was obviously the offense, the turnovers. I mean, I think next week can be really close. I mean, I thought it was going to be close no matter what, just because I do think Durkin, just like Brent Venables, is a great defensive mind. It's not going to let Jalen Milroe just beat him. They take away your strength and make you play left-handed. They take away your right, they take away your strength, make you play with your left hand. That's what good defensive coordinators do. Offense had a good game plan, good scripted play game plan right off the bat. For most of the game, though, it was pretty solid. I mean, this was definitely Auburn's best game of the season. You thought they would win. I did pick A&M in this one. I was very confident this game would be really close, though. I didn't think we'd have a 21-point lead blown.
Dave, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think A&M was gonna lose this game, but I wanted to see if the trend was still working. Where if I pick against A&M, they were gonna win. I actually thought A&M was gonna win this game, and I got lucky. People have to realize when I do that, 9 times out of 10, I actually at one point I didn't believe in Texas A&M. Then they started to win football games. After the Mizzou game, I just did it because I wanted to see if I was actually going to get it done. The only game that I actually picked against A&M thinking that they were going to lose was the South Carolina game. Every other matchup, it's just been a ploy. And now the A&M has the funniest chance, and I have the funniest chance to do the unthinkable next week when we talk about the Lone Star Showdown. We do. And A&M, I got to give a lot of credit. They were down, but they weren't out of the count. 21-0, a lot of teams have their hands on their thighs and they say, well, it was a good season. We knew that we were going to go into a hostile environment. We had to have a game plan, great execution. We unfortunately fell on the sword a little bit too early. Best of luck to us next year. But they didn't. Marcel Reed comes up big. A couple of big-time strikes to get Terry Busey into the end zone, Terry Busey into the end zone for a 1-yard score. Then, coming out of halftime, 73-yard touchdown pass to Noah Thomas. That was after a great 14-yard grab. And number 3, what a phenomenal grab at the back of the end zone. And now it's 21-21, and we got a brand new ball game. And at that point, it did feel like momentum was kind of shifting towards Texas A&M. You get Ja'Day Walker getting in the end zone with 8 minutes. I mean, with what was it? I think about you get Amari Daniels to get in the end zone. Rady Bond drills a field goal. You feel confident. 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Yet here we are right now. Here we are watching as Peyton Thorne comes to life. Dave, Peyton Thorne was always going to need to drive. Finally, he had his moment this year. A&M finally had his moment this year. Final drive, setting up play after play after play. And then Birmingham Southern's former kicker, Ian Vacon, I think is how you say his last name. I'm not sure if I said it right, but Vacon. Guy was not doing anything. He was just a student. Now he's making the biggest kick of his life, and it's in overtime. And now we got a brand new ball game where everything and anything is on the table.
Yeah, and to give credit too, I agree with you. The kicker's a good point. Again, I'm critical on Hugh Freeze, but give Hugh Freeze credit. That was his best game plan in 2 years at Auburn.
Yeah.
That was obviously his biggest win. Great game plan, great play calls. Again, you totally sold on him down the line? No, but for tonight's sake, he did a phenomenal job. That was impressive, man. I had it on the dual screen going back and forth between the eyes going back and forth between the Alabama-Oklahoma game in Auburn and Texas A&M tonight. You're watching it, you're like, this is creative. Like, Peyton Thorne looks comfortable. I don't know. It looked like it was like everybody was on the same page for the most part offensively in that game plan. That was against a good A&M defense too. So, I mean, I'll give Auburn credit. That was impressive. I don't know if I'm storming the field after that. But, again, to be fair to their students, dude, I mean, if you don't win next week, you could be a freshman. You could be a freshman at Auburn or started school, Cole, in 2021. 21. If you're a freshman in 2021 at Auburn, if they don't win next week, you will never have seen a winning record at Auburn for Auburn football during your time as a student, which is wild. That's nuts.
It's crazy. And that's why, again, when you look at the expectation set, you have the expectation set. And I'm not ready to go ahead and throw in the towel on Hugh Freeze. I'm also not going to come out here and give him his flowers because if you got to win against a team, that I'll be completely fair. Jordan-Hare Stadium, senior night, your very last game at home, you're trying to get a statement, and you had to get this win. You had to get this win. I got to talk about one thing real fast, and we already brought this up on the previous show, which, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, Alabama, they lost poorly to Oklahoma out Memorial Stadium. There was a play. There was a play where it was a hold. There was a play where it was an offensive, what was it? Illegal motion on offense. Touchdown called back. Go watch it. Go watch my reaction. I lose my mind. I'm about to lose it again. This game probably should have been over in second overtime. It probably should have been over because we talk about holding. I get it. There's holding in football. It's going to happen. Though, guess what? Life is life. Then there is egregious holding. There was egregious holding in the second overtime. And then there was an offensive pass interference call. Very next play. What are the refs doing here? What are we doing? Again, how is officiating this year in this conference that bad? It is disgustingly awful. And it nearly cost Auburn a win. It nearly did. You want to know who it did cost a win? South Carolina. You want to know who it has cost a win? It nearly cost Vanderbilt a game. You want to know who it has cost a win? It nearly cost Oklahoma a game. We've seen it time and time again this year where it has affected the outcome. It did affect the outcome in Norman, but it certainly could have affected the outcome in Auburn. And the refs have got to be better. If you are going out there and you're putting up if you get paid that amount of money to be able to call games, call it right, call it fair. When you see that it's a completely miscommunication, don't sit by idly and go, oh, no, it's penalty. Egregious. Disgusting. The SEC refs basically.
Yeah, it's been bad this year. Oh, it's not. And honestly, I know we're talking. It's in all SEC sports right now. I think baseball is probably the best. SEC basketball officiating. I mean, I don't know how many of our almost
we have over
1,200 listeners out here who follow college basketball hard, but like I myself. But college basketball officiating is bad. College football officiating this year has been bad. College basketball officiating has been bad for years. But really, the most consistent sport they have is baseball. And I get it. It's probably the easiest sport to officiate out of the big three. But you're right. It's every week that you just see egregious calls where you're just like, what? What is that? See, I'm not one that thinks like refs should have to go sit in front of a press conference after and be butchered with questions. Because again, we know not all those questions will be attacking. They won't get it. Nobody's going to be like, hey, Johnny Smith, Mr. Ref, I just want to tell you, you called a hell of an illegal motion call earlier. Just wanted to give you credit. What was your thought going into that one? Like, you know what I mean? You're going to get attacked, and I get that. But you're right. Something should be held accountable. I want to give the benefit. I need to call around and maybe see this week. I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the SEC and say they probably do as a league, obviously review their officials and grade them. But it would be interesting, like stuff like that, the cover up on the Alabama play, like you said, the holding for the Auburn for this one. I would love to see it. What you mentioned, the South Carolina went on the rough in the passer on Garrett Nussmeier, right? Kind of what I know what they came out and said publicly, but like when you're grading your officials in the offseason, like, what are you saying on that would be an interesting statement. You're right, but somebody's got to start being held accountable. We see it every week. But really this year, college football standing out is being poorly officiated. I agree. And it's been a while for college basketball, but this year, really football is sticking out like a sore thumb.
By the way, we got over 1,300 people watching, so if you could just do me a quick favor, make sure that you have that subscribe button hit down below. You also like the video and hit that ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of SEC Unfiltered. Georgia's going back to the championship. Alabama's out. Texas A&M has an opportunity to play spoiler right now. They're probably not going to go to the college football playoff. If you were to tell me when it looks at the 9-3 rosters currently, the thing that benefits a team like South Carolina is they have a dominant win over Texas A&M. So they're out. But what you can say is Texas A&M has an opportunity to come home in a game that they have been waiting for since 2011 and knock off Texas. And if they do that, to me, even though it does feel like, again, I picked them to go 8-4 this year. I thought it was going to be about an 8-4 season. Thought they would lose a game they probably shouldn't. This was the one. This was always going to be the case. A lot of things can be still feeling like you're trending in the right direction, that this isn't a lost year. You have a great foundation, and now it's only going to be phase 2. Again, so many people, it's like the way I talk about South Carolina when I say you go 9-3. It's a great year, even if you don't make the college football playoff. It's the same thing for Texas A&M. 9-3, first-year head coach with how many transfers came on in, with the quarterback controversy, and really some questions all season on who was going to be your guy. You got to feel like at least that is a step forward. And it's not going to be one that's going to be a one-year wonder, flash in the pan. What you're going to have is it's sustainable. Because the thing with Jimbo Fisher that I've always said was that 2020 season was magical. They probably should have belonged in the college football playoff. They absolutely got hosed for my money because of Ohio State.
I think they were better than Notre Dame that year.
But also Ohio State didn't play 10 games while Notre Dame, Alabama, they played 5 and then again they had one game canceled. And Alabama, and remember A&M had one game canceled. The Ole Miss game. They were supposed to play that year and they had 2 COVID rainouts. So that's the case. But that was a one-year wonder. Every other year was disappointing with Jimbo. This can be sustainable, but it has to start by getting a signature win at home against Texas and reigniting the rivalry.
And let's be honest too, Bear. I mean, give Georgia congratulations. They're officially in the SEC championship game.
They are. Congratulations.
And they will face the winner still of A&M and Texas. And Cole, to bring up your point, talking about a 3-loss team. What if A&M wins next week and beats Georgia? I'm not saying that happens, and I won't predict that happens. I'm just saying, what if it did happen? That is a 3. That's when A&M, I think, with all this chaos happening, would get in. Now, obviously, with the championship, they'd win it, so they're automatic. My point, sorry, I misspoke.
No, I know what you're saying.
They wouldn't get in with another loss. I don't think so. That'd be their 4th loss. There's no way.
No, there's not. A 4-loss team is not going to the
9, and you'd be 9-4. No, if they won it, obviously they got the bid. So I misspoke there. But no, it's still funny. They still technically have the best path.
But Chris, I mean,
they still
Dave,
control their own destiny.
Dave, you realize that what you just said though, if they win, they would also have a 10-3 Georgia. So a 3-loss team still would get in because you're not leaving Georgia out. Georgia's going to the playoff too. If they go to now they're in the SEC championship. For my money, Georgia's a lock to be in the playoff.
Yeah, probably what's happened. But A&M is the only team between the 3 teams that lost today that control their own destiny.
They are. No, they truly are.
Which Ole Miss and Alabama don't control their own destiny, but A&M beats Texas, beats Georgia. They're in.
Yeah, and I think at that point, here's what really is going to be interesting. If you do put a 3-loss team into the college football playoff, which is the one that you feel most confident in, and which is the one that probably, for my money, has the best opportunity? I think it's South Carolina because if you're going to put the SEC champions in, well, who beat the SEC champions and beat them outright, badly? It was a beatdown in the second half. South Carolina. That's the team. That's the one that goes for my money. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the case.
Well, I think there's some other teams in front of them. I mean, Tennessee goes 10-2. They're in.
No. I'm saying a 3-loss team. Of the 3, if it was Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, if the SEC champ goes and they lose,
I mean that would make the South Carolina's win over A&M way more for sure. If you beat the SEC champion, I mean, I don't think we're going to get to that because I don't think A&M is going to win both those games. But still, I mean, they feel probably better than Alabama and Ole Miss do today. At least you control your own destiny.
I want to bring this up real fast because I haven't had the time to talk about this. I was actually going to maybe do another live stream if people want to, but now that we're on here and it's over midnight on the East Coast, I figure this is important. There's a lot of people. We know who they are. I won't say his name. You know who his name is. We've all heard it before. Pretty disgusting. In fact, it's Canellish. Very bad. Saying that the SEC is having a down year. Saying that the SEC is not great. Saying that the SEC is wash. Is the way it is. Maybe you got to staple your mouth shut to get it done. To me, the SEC for the last few years, really over the last decade, has had a great team. They've had an elite team. And then they've had really solid teams. I don't think the SEC has an elite team this year.
No, I think that all year.
I think that is
I'll say this, Cole. I don't think there's a great team in college football.
I was about to say, I don't think that right now, outside of Oregon at its peak, and Oregon has its faults, there is not an elite team in college football in 2024.
No, there's not. I mean, and the reason for that is the portal. I mean, the teams don't have the depth they used to. So, like, these games that you see these teams like Oregon playing 8 straight Big Ten games and going on the road to Wisconsin and struggling, you're going to see that there's more parity now because the transfer portal, you're an injury or 2 away from being like, oh my God, we're playing a true freshman at our starting Mike back, or he's having to make all our calls. He's our green dot guy. Like, again, because it's so those teams can't bring in proven guys with production to be backups. No one's going to do that. So it's either freshmen or guys you're bringing up from the group of 5 level, from the Power 4 standpoint.
But go ahead. I'll let you go. My bad.
No. I was just saying I don't think there's an elite team in college football this year.
But for me, I'm still saying the SEC is the best conference, far and away. The level of competition that you see on Saturdays in the SEC is miles ahead of what the ACC is. It's miles ahead of the Big 12. It's miles ahead of the Mountain West, the Sun Belt Conference USA. And even in a year where you're looking at the SEC versus the Big 10, who deserves to have more representation? Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's still the SEC. The SEC has more ranked wins. They have more top 25 head-to-head matchups. And more importantly, the thing that people point out is they always look at the bottom dwellers in the conference. They look at just like Auburn, they look at Kentucky, they look at Arkansas, they look at Texas A&M losing to Notre Dame, Florida at one point. And then you have to realize, well, South Carolina would absolutely shred an Illinois. Ole Miss would beat the brakes off of Wisconsin. Texas A&M would find a way to obliterate a Washington team. And those are the middle tier teams that you have in the in the Big 10 versus the middle tier teams that you have in the SEC. That's why the SEC is still the best conference. And why, if you're asking me right now, how many teams belong in for the college football playoff? It probably won't be 4. It won't be, but it is 4. 4 is the right amount that belongs, because of 4, you have to consider the way that the schedule is and how they have cannibalized each other. That's a big deal. And I'm sorry. If you're going to try to justifiably come up with an arrangement to where, hey, we're going to put in 2 group of 5 schools over another SEC squad, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing? You really want to see Boise State and Tulane in over a 3-loss Ole Miss or a 3-loss South Carolina team? No, not even remotely close. Nobody wants to see that. And by the way, what you're doing is you're ruining the sanctity of what these wins matter. Wins matter. Wins do. But so does your strength of record, so does your strength of schedule, and so does the eye test. And the eye test...
Get rid of all the conference stuff, Bear. Just rank them the best 12 teams.
If you want to really go back to the FPI, if you really want to go make this fair, go back to the FPI rankings or go to the BCS rankings, just rank the 12 best teams. Just do it that way. Because the SEC, I promise you, they'll be 5 in the top 12. They may be 6. It's not going to happen. They're not going to get 5 in. They're not going to get 6 in. How much cannibalization happened today in the sport is a sign that you will not get 4 or 5 teams in from the SEC. But if you want to go simply based off of FPI, strength of record, and the BCS metric to get the 12 best teams, you're going to be shocked when you see a 9-3 South Carolina as the 8 seed and a number 12 be Ole Miss. You're going to be shocked by it because that's what's going to happen. And by the way, you still have to include Texas. And by the way, you still have to include Tennessee. And by the way, you still have to include Georgia. They have to be included in this too. And Alabama probably is in it too at number 11. That's the bottom line. So can we stop with the notion that the SEC is having a down year? What the SEC doesn't have is an elite team like everyone else in college football. There is not one elite team. But you're damn sure not watching underwhelming performances out in Madison, out in East Lansing, out in Ann Arbor, like you are instead down in Nashville, out in Columbia, out in the other Columbia, and certainly out at times in College Station, Texas. You're not.
No, yeah. Again, I think the sport's down this year. And it's still a fun watch. But I think this is going to make it for maybe some ugly college football playoff games with these injuries mounting, the depth getting hit even more. Fowler, I thought, made a good point during the Alabama game that was going to happen. I was like, he's right. Like the season's longer, depth's taking more of a toll. I just think the way we're at that bottleneck kind of in the sport right now where it's tough for someone to be real dominant, to be fair to these coaches and staff. It's tough. It's not really set up. It's a longer season, the way the rules are, the one-time transfer. I don't think we're going to see dominant teams anymore. I think it's going to be very similar to the NFL where there's going to be a lot of parity at the Power 4 level where you see an Alabama team, it looks like they have everything rolling for them, go roll into a senior-led Oklahoma team, especially on defense, and they just ran into a monster tonight. Again, Alabama didn't play good. Oklahoma beat them in all 3 phases. I think you're going to start seeing that a little more at times. There's just more parity across the board. But overall, I think the sport, again, I'm not saying this to be a downer or bring everything down. I just don't think – I think this is the worst year of just straight football we've seen at times between penalties, some of that, I guess, officiating. But just overall, you've seen a lot more busted coverages. But again, it goes back to depth at the Power 4 level. It's the only reason it is.
Dave, you know what's going to start winning in college football in the month of November? Offensive line play and depth. That's it. That's what's going to start winning. If you have an offensive line and you have depth, you will be able to withstand the trials and tribulations that is going to be moving into the college football playoff. Bottom line, if you don't have that, you don't. Before we get on out of here, Hugh Freeze did get a win. They have to win next week in the Iron Bowl to guarantee a bowl berth. It's an underwhelming season. Let's not sugarcoat it, okay? This has been a very bad year for Auburn, and it's self-inflicting wounds. But we know this about Hugh Freeze. He is a college football recruiter. He knows how to sell a program. He knows how to get the best version out of a program in terms of the recruiting aspect. Does this do work for him when it comes to the recruiting? A win over Texas A&M. And more importantly, at some moment, do we have to have the conversation, as important as recruiting is, on-field execution also matters. Because one of the biggest issues that I had with Dan Mullen being fired, I completely respect that he didn't like recruiting, but he had on-field excellence. Right now, Auburn has too many self-inflicting wounds. They've put themselves in a negative situation, but they are recruiting well. Does that have to start factoring in, or right now is it simply, hey, if he continues to recruit and brings in the right top 10 classes, we're going to keep him around?
Yeah, I mean, the next year is massive for him. Now, even if they lose next week to Alabama, I think most people's minds are kind of made up on this season. It was underachieving. Yeah, would Alabama help with a win against Alabama this year? Absolutely. But I still think Auburn fans would be like, we probably could have won 8 games. But next year, this is the year all the cash, the checks are starting to cash. The money's starting to be in the On to Victory collective, from what I'm hearing. But again, what quarterbacks are going to be in the portal for them? Hearing Aaron Nolan from Ohio State, maybe the Caden Salter kid from Liberty, or the 2 names that were bounced around in October. So we'll see how that goes. But I think they're going to spend money. You could see them having a big turnaround year next year. They just got to figure out, obviously, that quarterback spot.
Do you remember how we talked about, well, for starters, they have Deuce Knight currently locked up. And that's the guy that you're betting a lot of hope on, that he will be the guy for Hugh Freeze. That is your guy. That's your X factor. You're not paying him the way that you're paying Bryce Underwood at Michigan, but that's your guy. But do you remember how we talked about in the offseason that this was supposed to be year 3, the breakout year? I said that Auburn was going to take that jump the way that Miami did in 2024 and the way that Texas did in 2023, where they're going to go to the college football playoff because they spent money in the transfer portal. More importantly, they brought in the right NIL funds to build around the overall foundation of the team. And I thought that Auburn wasn't going to be that anymore because of, I just didn't think boosters were going to buy in. As much as I don't think right now Auburn's going to have as much of that, as much money as they probably were promising Hugh Freeze before, I think a win tonight, and if they are somehow able to win against Alabama and win on the road in Bryant-Denny Stadium, the first Iron Bowl for Kalen DeBoer, I think that you'll start gaining a little bit of that money back. And maybe that's where Auburn can capitalize and get right into the conversation. 9-3, 10-2, dark horse for a college football playoff game.
Yeah, no, maybe a good way to finish the season for you, Freeze, would be wild. He needed that signature win, though.
He needed that win.
And they earned it tonight. Had a good game plan. You just kept – when they blew the 21-0 lead, though, you're like, here we go again. It's the same song and dance every week, it feels like, except the Kentucky game. But give him credit. Good game plan, good offensive game plan against a good defense, a good defensive mind, and Mike Elko. So it was a good win for Auburn.
And then again, for Texas A&M, I still think that the best is ahead for you. You got the right
guy.
They
control their own destiny, Bear. Don't doubt them, baby.
You got the right guy. No, you got the right guy at the helm. You do. Case in point. And A&M has all the resources. If you've ever been out to College Station and you know what that place is, you know what that opportunity is, you realize that they can be right alongside the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Tennessees, because of they have the state-of-the-art complex. Everything is there for them to win now, including, I think, the right person at the helm and Tommy Moffitt and the director of player personnel.
I think they got to go get the right quarterback. They got to go get a quarterback.
Sure.
I think they may tell you their quarterback for next year is not even on the roster right now.
But to me, the thing is, without a doubt, just because you feel like you got the vibes rolling with a win over LSU, you got the vibes rolling because if you dominate in the swamp, and remember, you may buy that house, but for the first year, you still have the lingering of the previous owner. You still have it. Texas A&M, for years, would drop a game that they shouldn't. And it wasn't South Carolina that you need to be worried about. It was always Auburn. One bad game, it's one bad game. But just remember, you always were going to have a moment that was left over from the Jimbo Fisher era. But like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave Shumate at Mach 10 Sports. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version of the show. And before you get on out of here, we have over 1,500 people watching. Just do us a favor and make sure that you hit that ring notification, because when you do, you get told when we're coming on, like tomorrow morning for Sunday Funday, or like Monday when it's the Monday Morning Power Hour, or when it's Monday for Dave Talk Ball, or Tuesday for the College Football Playoff Rankings, or any single live stream that we have. So make sure you just hit that ring notification, and if you haven't already, just go ahead and hit subscribe. But for Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Auburn, you got the win. We love college football. Peace.